Hey everyone, today let's know about some of the terrifying acts of cruelty executed by the British Empire. Let's start the video, but before that I request you to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that I can bring more exciting ones like this. The British Empire was the largest the world has ever seen. At its zenith, it controlled roughly a quarter of the world's population and landmass. This colossal achievement was built upon systematic violence from colonial massacres and concentration camps to engineered famine and systematic torture. In the case of India and Palestine, British imperial rule ended in ongoing and bloody legacies of partition. One of the most notorious episodes in the history of the British Empire in India was the infamous Jallianwala Bagh or Amritsar massacre. On April 13, 1919, a vast assembly of over 10,000 gathered within the walls of Jallianwala Bagh, a historic garden close to the Golden Temple complex in the city of Amritsar. While some were there to protest colonial laws against public gatherings, others were there to take part in the Baisakhi festival and usher in the arrival of spring. Without warning, British soldiers under the command of General Dyer opened fire on the unarmed crowd until their ammunition ran out. Trapped between the walls of the compound and with Dyer's soldiers blocking the only exit, several hundred were killed and many hundreds more were injured. The Amritsar massacre stands as one of the most bloody episodes of violence against peaceful protesters in the history of the British Empire. Under pressure to swiftly conclude the Second Anglo-Boer War in 1900 to 1902, the British Army under General Kitchener launched a brutal campaign to systematically clear Boer guerrilla fighters from the South African Republic and Orange Free State. Kitchener's troops established a network of concentration camps, burnt farms, and slaughtered livestock. They subsequently deployed waves of irregular troops and mobile columns to hunt down the guerrillas. The effects were devastating. Approximately 1/6 of the Boer population, mostly women and children, were rounded up and interned in concentration camps. They suffered unsanitary conditions, meager rations, and severe overcrowding. The camps became breeding grounds for disease. In the end, almost 28,000 Boers died in British concentration camps. About 22,000 of them were children. The British failed to keep records for the estimated 20,000 black Africans that died in the camps. British settler colonialism in Kenya focused on the fertile central highlands on the cultivation of coffee and tea. As a result, a large number of Kikuyu, which is a dominant ethnic group in Kenya, were stripped of their land and pushed into the cities. In the early 1950s, the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, known as Mau Mau, launched an uprising against the colonizers. They were quickly met with tactics of mass detention and torture. After Kenya gained independence, the British officially admitted to detaining 80,000 Kikuyu during the emergency. In reality, colonial records detailing the extent of detention, murder, and torture in Kenya was hidden or destroyed. Inside detention camps surrounded by barbed wire, the British authorities held almost the entire Kikuyu population of 1.5 million for over 8 years. Having deemed that Kenyans were of the type which understand and reacts to violence, hundreds of thousands of Kikuyu were brutalized and tortured. The Bengal famine of 1943 was one of the most devastating tragedies of the 20th century, resulting in an estimated 3 million preventable deaths. At the time, Britain blamed the consequences of famine on adverse weather conditions and food shortfalls, portraying the tragedy as an unavoidable natural disaster. However, in reality, what approximated mass starvation was not an act of nature. It was engineered. As Bengal grappled with famine in 1942, Winston Churchill decided to export thousands of tons of grain to support a parallel famine in Greece and sustain the British war effort. Furthermore, India was banned from using its own sterling reserves to acquire food for its starving population. Churchill, who personally hated Indians, claimed in his defense that the famine was their own fault for breeding like rabbits. The underlying causes of the Bengal famine were thus not draft, but the policy decisions of the British government. Divide and rule is the oldest and easiest trick in the book. It was also the primary strategy of the British Empire. From India to Palestine, the application of centuries of divide and rule resulted in bloody legacies of partition. The partition of British India in 1947 was the decision of Imperial Britain. Besides being a human catastrophe of truly colossal scope, the decision to split British India along Hindu, which was India, and Muslim, which was Pakistan lines, has had devastating consequences for both Indo-Pakistani relations and the plight of the 200 million strong Muslim minority in India. Likewise, in 1937, the Peel Commission recommended partition, determining that Palestine consisted of two distinct societies, Jewish settlers and Palestinian Arabs, with irreconcilable political demands. When the British left Palestine in 1948, the United Nations ratified the plan and set in motion a brutal decades-long conflict that endures to this day. Well, that's it for today. I hope you're liking Nerdies discoveries. Can't wait for the next video to learn more and be fascinated about. See you on the next. Bye.